So that might pop up on your screen if anybody says, just in case. So welcome, everybody. Lovely for you to come and join us. My name is Kim Macleod from Indie Authors World, if you haven't been along to one of our events before. And I'm really excited that tonight, or this afternoon, even where it is for you, sir, I get to have a chat with this wonderful man. And Gerry Finkel, welcome to your book launch for The World According to Gerry. Here we are, the book. And Gerry and I have actually had some really interesting conversations during the process of this book coming out, and I'm really pleased that we've got a chance to share some of the thoughts and the inspiration that you're sharing with us tonight with the audience that we've got joining us. So we're going to, I just want to start just by reading the kind of background of the little bit of the blurb on the book, and then we're going to have a really interesting chat, I hope, Gerry, getting into all sorts of discussions, and we'll see where we go. So here we have The World According to Gerry. At the age of 83, after 61 years in his fulfilling profession as an academic pathologist, retirement was a bit of a bummer for Gerry Finkel. So what does a man with a sharp mind and intellect, keen wit and a desire to communicate do? He opened the door, allowing us to step into the world according to Gerry. So from the unique perspective of a life filled with knowledge and many rich experiences, octogenarian Gerry Finkel shares his musings on life, art, music and books, through to exploring deeper concepts of time and the self. Gerry speaks with warmth and passion and humour in different styles ranging from philosophical questioning to poetry, fictional short stories and memoir. Designed to provoke thought, conversation and perhaps controversy, The World According to Gerry encourages all readers to do their own thinking, to stretch, to reach and explore, and it makes for fascinating reading and mindful stimulation. And we've got a little quote that says, "The power of imagination can drive wishes, hopes, fears, creativity and actions. And this is a wonderful book for all generations to share."
Sounds great. I think I'll buy a copy.
So after that wonderful start to this book. So welcome, Gerry. And
Thank you.
I would love to start just by sharing a little bit about your story. I mean, 61 years in a profession is a long time.
I think that calculation is a little bit wrong. I actually think as a pathologist, it's only 51. So I think it's a misprint, but 51 is pretty good. And if I include the training that goes into it, that makes it 56. So we're really not so far off from.
We're not too far away. We were chatting earlier, and you were saying to me that you sort of got into medicine by accident. So how did you accidentally end up in
Well,
medicine?
no, it's actually it wasn't exactly accident. I like say it was by default. I was a college student at Dartmouth College in New Hampshire, which is just a beautiful place, and was loving it. And I was I was taking pre-med courses. You know, you have to take certain amount of science and what have you in order to apply to a medical school. Dartmouth had a program that allowed you to take the first year of medical school while you were a senior in college. And I have to tell you that my father said, you know, it's a very expensive proposition if you were to get into medical school now. I could save a whole year's tuition. And to tell you the truth, I couldn't say no to him. And it was just, I did. I applied to one medical school when I was a junior in college and got in. And so I went to medical school. I hated it. I absolutely hated medical school. It was awful. Now, it wasn't difficult. It was just an enormous amount of work. And I'm a rather lazy person, you know. I enjoy whatever, like any teenager would. And but I did it. And ultimately, well, I finished medical, so I transferred to Harvard. Um, Completed my medical training there and started a career in internal medicine. Discovered that I was not suited for that. I was too involved with dying patients. Terrible. So I decided to take a year of pathology as I needed space. And I had worked in a laboratory when I was a high school and college student. That was my summer job. I knew a little bit about what pathology was about. And once I started my residency in pathology, I said, this is it. And I never left. And from that point on, I was glad that I was there. But boy, it took an awful lot of suffering to get there. And so I continued in academic pathology.
So to stay in that profession and I mean not retire then until what you were 83, is that correct?
83, yeah. I
Um,
couldn't keep up with the science. Um, I'll say it, and if anybody really wants me to explain it, I'll try. But at the time I started, pathology was basically cellular biology. You looked at tissues and cells and diagnosed from samples. Uh, as in the 21st century, we're a fifth of the way through, aren't we? And it started to be molecular biology. And I learned the basics, know the basics. But I could not, the pathology required expert knowledge in this field. And I really couldn't keep up with the science. And I was an old man. And so I said, I cut back. And then I finally said, well, I think it's time to retire. And the chairman of the department agreed with me. So I did. And during the interval between the time I retired the first time at 65, I wrote a poetry book during that period of time. And then after I retired, I wrote this book. And
so
here I am.
yeah, that's it. That's it. No, that's us done, folks. Thanks very much. So what was retirement like for you then? Because I just get, I really get that sense. Obviously, you share a little bit in the book as well that having had a busy career and something that really occupied your mind, was retirement difficult then?
No, I had lots of things to do. I played the piano. I moved out to Seattle because my wife is from Seattle. We had been visiting here for decades. I knew lovely city. It had the primary requirements. It had a university, it had a symphony orchestra, and a good Chinese restaurant. And those are that's the requirement. It is also not as congested as the East. Many of you have been to New York. Well, of course, that's sort of a special place. And I grew up just on the other side of the Hudson River in New Jersey, which is so. But it was convenient to me. In any event, decided to retire out here because my wife's family was here and my family was sort of scattered throughout the United States. And I started taking courses at the university. I renewed piano lessons. I started reading. I started writing poetry. I was hiking in the mountains. I was all kinds of things, and I felt like a fish out of water. I didn't have any purpose.
Yeah.
Not being, yeah, not. That's when and that took about 6 months, and then that's when, then you heard the rest of the story. I contacted the Department of Pathology at the medical school here and offered, volunteered to help teach, and then I was offered a job, and I took it. And then you heard the end of that, and here I am now. And I'm going to be 89 this next month. So that's about 6 years, 5.5, 6 years. And this time I was able to accept the fact that I wasn't practicing medicine. I still go to conferences and try to teach the residents how to be a doctor. I can't teach pathology; they know more than I. But they don't know how to practice. Hard to practice. People say, "What does the pathologist do?" Because they look on television, they think that I diagnose dead bodies and solve crimes. And that there is a subspecialty in pathology, forensic pathology, and that all the people on television are much better than anybody I know. But someone says, "What does a pathologist do?" I say, "Well, we give psychotherapy to surgeons," and it's not far from the truth. But actually, it's a bit arcane, and basically, we diagnose cancer.
Yeah, yeah. So, can I ask?
Have anatomic expression.
Yeah.
Yes. Go ahead.
So, I think probably most people that have if they were, having had a long career and lived through a lot of, interesting times, and they reach a certain point in their life, that they're more inclined to write a memoir, just write all their own life, and that would sit down and want to tell everything about what happened in their life and their experiences. But you chose to write a different sort of book. So why was it that you wanted to write this book?
Oh my. Well, we have to go back again. We'll go back to Dartmouth College. And when I was in high school, I don't know what the system of education is in but here we go through 12 grades. And in high school, I went to a public high school, and it just wasn't challenging. Everything was very, very easy. And I felt like I didn't quite belong. I got to Dartmouth, which is a religious school, and I met all kinds of people that were just like me. It was just a wonderful experience. And I majored in English. I did not major in science. I majored in English honors. I was a junior. That's when I applied to the medical school. So the humanities, particularly music and later art, fine art, were primary interests of mine. Doing the science courses were an aside. That's why I say when I went to medical school, but I never lost interest in it. And when I could, I did a lot of reading and went to concerts, went to the opera, some of which I like. And,
so that was really then the kind of inspiration, because this book, you're saying it's the world according to Gerry,
right?
But as you and I were just chatting before we came on, and this idea that I was saying, well, the world according to Kim is that I like to talk, and everybody who knows me knows that. And you like to share that you've shared your experiences across lots of
I say that in the book, and actually it's really the message of the book is, yes, this is the world according to Gerry, but I read a bit of philosophy as well. And if you read, someone really prestigious like Immanuel Kant, who could be more prestigious, or Arthur Schopenhauer, or these great German, or even by name Hume, who I think comes from your territory. They have great minds and they wrote great books, but they were just people. So Immanuel Kant wrote a book called Critique of Pure Reason, which I cited as the world according to Manning. Schopenhauer wrote a book called Will and Representation, and I say that's the world according to Artie. I mean, that's just what they are. So I wrote a book the world according to Gerry, and I really is an invitation for everybody to write a book according to me. And
yeah, that's it.
That's it. That's the whole thing. So, yeah. And because it's according to Gerry, and there is no claim in the book that what I've said is the gospel truth. Yep. If it resonates with you, great. And if it doesn't, if it interests you at all, argue with it. And if it's boring, close the book. That's
it. So I know it's very obvious whenever you get into this book about how books and words are, have been a big part of your life, and obviously the love of it, and that really obviously comes across when you were describing your early studies then as to why.
Right.
Because even you write a fictitious chapter about visiting a library, which
my fictional, yes.
Fiction.
Entirely fictional, but I bring my fictional dog Socrates with me. And you read them, and it's a tongue-in-cheek essay, entirely fictional. I think it's the only chapter in the book that is just plain fictional. I made it up. And I think there's stuff in there that's of interest. You'll like it.
So yeah, and that's the thing. Socrates the dog. So do you have a dog at all?
Not anymore. I don't. I love dogs. I've had them all my life, but I'm a bit too old and can't really take care of them.
So then
we don't.
So we've got the fiction of visiting the library, and then you talk about what good are books? I mean, that's one of the questions, And I'll just read the little section at the start of the book, which is the start of that chapter, which says, having visited the library, I start to explore what I have read in the books I selected. This section follows easily from the previous section and begins to discuss what books are for, what avenues they open for us, enlarging our lives and raising questions of which we have pondered or have been unaware. And books are very much a part of Gerry's world. So I'm curious about, were you encouraged to read as a child? Because a lot of people, are intelligent and will read things because they're, they have to go to school and they're made to read. But did the love of reading come early on in your life? Can you remember?
The answer is no. I did have. Well, in my generation, and I think I don't know. Well, I see we have a bunch of mature people here, but I think I'm probably older than anybody here. Nobody learned anything before they went to school. Nowadays, we start teaching adult children,
Mm-hmm.
3-year-old children anyway. So I didn't know how to read when I got to kindergarten. And whatever was put in front of me, I learned. That was it. I did have some books. I think I talk about the Arabian Nights somewhere.
Yeah, yeah.
That fascinated me, both the stories and the pictures. A little later on, by the time I got to be 10, 12 years old, I was reading a fair amount. And not until then.
Yeah. But now, so do you read for pleasure still?
Yes, but I've more or less stopped reading fiction. I've been, excuse me, I've been reading a lot of philosophy, and I've gotten into secular Buddhism in the past few years. It's a fascinating area, and I think I do mention it, and I've done a considerable amount of reading in areas. Very interested in the mind,
Yeah.
neuroscience. I still read the medical journals, at least selected articles, because it's interesting. And I pretty much have stopped reading the newspaper.
Yeah.
Because it makes me depressed.
Yeah, there's no point, isn't it? They never tell you any good news, so
Right.
never any good news. So you pose questions in your book to, for the readers to consider. That's the thing, isn't it? You want the reader to really think about what you're sharing. And
Yeah.
And one of the questions that is, around what is art, that's sort of
Oh, that's a good subject.
So tell us a little bit about your art and a certain painting that's actually made its way into this book.
Well, you'll find in the book there is a page of a abstract painting that has a backstory, and it's real there. Oh yeah, it's magnificent.
It's wonderful.
Also, if you like it, it's not the real painting isn't much bigger than that. I was in the Art Institute of Chicago with a very close friend, brilliant attorney, and the best amateur pianist I have ever met. Got to be very good friends. And we were in Chicago, went to the Art Institute, and walked into a room that had Gerhard Richter, who's still alive, by the way. I think he's about my age. Who had a variety of styles, but one of his styles was abstract expressionism. He did this enormous painting. Oh, it had to be 12 by 18 feet. They took up the whole wall. We're standing in front of this, and it's a bunch of little abstract little units next to each other. And it's quite impressive. And it's so like Brad, I can do that. And of course, it was a joke. He looked at me and he was very serious. No, you can't. And I was taken aback, and I figured, well, I'm going to push this. I'll push this a little further. So I said, yes, I can. And he says, no, you can't. And so I said, okay, I'm going to go home. I'm going to get out my paint set and paint the painting, and I'll send it to you. He says, don't send it. Oh, that summer I bought a kit, buying any art store, and stupidly I bought oil paints. I didn't know any better, and opened up the kit, and they had already a little canvas this big, and it was already prepared, ready for the paint. You have to. I learned that you have to prepare the surface before you can apply the paint. Didn't know nothing about it. Never done any art at all since I was a child. I started smearing on paint, and that's the paint. And
And this is the masterpiece that
That's the masterpiece.
that's
Right.
the masterpiece. Yeah. So just
I,
to prove a point.
I have no technique. The thing about it was that it was free form expression. I found a way of expressing myself. I couldn't put it into words. I didn't know why I liked that particular stroke and next one. And I think I say in the book that I discovered that oil paints don't dry very fast, and I discovered you could smudge them; they smear. And I say, I could use that in this painting. Anyway, that's what you got. And what it means, I don't know. I don't know if I like it. I don't dislike it. There are people who like it. There are people who don't. And why? I can't tell you. I have no idea. I do think that it's some kind of a subconscious expression. It's clearly something I did. It came from somewhere in me. Oh, by the way, I have not done another one. See, I think it's going to be the only one. But I discuss art from the perspective of the artist. I discuss it from the perspective of the art itself and what other people are saying. And it basically, if you haven't thought about it, will open up some questions. They ask about, why should I look at a painting? If you have, then you'll either say, oh, right, well, everybody knows that, or you'll say, well, you completely missed the point. But I felt the need to talk about art. So as I said, I live 10 miles from New York City on the wrong side of the Hudson River. And but you travel into the city as a teenager. And nowadays, no right, self-respecting mother would allow their year-old by themselves. But my day, I did. I have been in New York, about 100,000. I even lived there for a few months. I have never had an untoward experience in my entire life. And I think it's a wonderful place, but it's kind of overwhelming.
Mm.
Last time I was there, I thought to myself, I don't think I could deal with places. But I used to go to the Museum of Modern Art.
Mm-hmm.
And I talk about my first visit and what paintings struck me and why, and then how I grew with them and how I learned more about the paintings, more meaningful of them.
And I think for me, there's it's like your love of all of these areas, whether it be music or art and words, and there's a real, just I suppose, love of life. And there are so many people who can say, like you said, will maybe say, this is good art, this is good music, this is bad art, this is bad music. And
Yeah.
I think what you in this book get us to do is just to consider, well, what is it that it actually means to us, and just encourage people to go and explore and consider what might be there.
Absolutely. I think everybody pays attention. I mean, there are people who don't, it's casual. But anyone who pays attention to art, music, has an opinion. They have an opinion, and their opinion's right. That's it. Their opinion's right. It's right for them. Is it right for everyone? No, of course not. Do I have to justify my taste in music to you? No. As a matter of fact, I'm in an age where I really don't care. I have my opinion, and I'm not going to force it on you, and I don't care what you think.
Yeah,
it's my opinion, and it's music, or it's art, or it's what have you. And I I was trained in classical music. I love classical, and I have trouble with a lot of 20th century music. A lot of people. I have spent decades trying to get emotionally involved, get involved with some of the 20th century music that I hated when I was 20 years old. And I've made some very slight progress. Not zero. I do have an appreciation for this or that, but mostly I don't like it.
That's it. That is the world according to Gerry in terms of
That's the world
music.
according to Joe. That's it. And am I right? I'm only right for me. You have to be right for you. That's it.
And
I don't impose it on anybody. And
yeah. And that is the, I mean, it's the overarching theme really through all of the stuff that you're writing. So I wanted to pick up on the concept of time that because you write in here about the sort of past, present, and future, and that's so the concept of time and its passing in particular. And I'm just curious, as you've described how, as you're getting older, you've probably got, more years behind you than you have in front of you.
Little doubt about
that. So does that make, in terms of exploring time and how that concept is, because you've written about that in the book, has that made you think about time differently if you look, now as to where you are in your life across your lifetime?
Ask that again, Kim.
So I'm just wondering, about whether if you think about time now differently, that as we, I mean, I'm even conscious as I'm in my later 50s now, and I'm more conscious of how making use of time and how, actually how it sits and where the concept of this is. And I wonder, being, in you said almost 89, that's so, does it make you more conscious of the time that you have available to you to live in and what you do with it?
I'm more conscious of it, but it doesn't force me to do things primarily because I can't. But that's one of the joys of my life coming out here was being able to hike the mountains. And the trails out west are really very good. I can't do that anymore. Let me ask about time. I want to read first sentence of the chapter called Past, Present, and Future. And I say this: the present is incomplete. Past is complete. And the future is non-existent. And everything stems from that. It's pretty obvious that the future is non-existent because it hasn't happened yet. And when it does happen, it becomes the present. The past is complete because it can't be repeated. That doesn't mean it doesn't have influence on the present. But whatever is past is past. One of my therapists said to me once, you can't wish for a better past. You have to think about it. You say, gee, I wish I had done this. I wish I had done that. You can't, that's not a sensible wish. Whatever happened in the past happened. That's it. Now you're where you are. And if you say, I wish I did something different in the past, well, do you still wish it in the present? You do. Now's the time. Then I go off on and to discuss the idea of the present, and I talk about the present being now. put it in quote. It's the now. And okay, but what's the now? And it is the completion. It is what happens, starts, and it finishes. And during that period of time, it's the now. Well, if I'm eating breakfast, the now is when I start munching, and then is when I stop munching. The now is now over. I'm now finished with breakfast. I say that the Big Bang, which has been going on for billions of years, is still a now. It's not over. What does that mean? I don't know what that means. I have no idea. I mean, it's an idea. It's just an idea. Is it proper to measure the time the universe has been expanding in Earth years, days, hours, minutes, seconds? Is that sensible? I don't know. No idea. Einstein said that time is what he was asked, because after all, a lot of relativity theory has to do with time. He says time is what clocks measure. He didn't know what it was either. I say it's a now. So a now could be going on, and then another now. Well, the first now is going on. A second now can occur. First now isn't over. And then there's another now, and then the first one is over, and maybe something repeats itself, and that which was now had become past, now becomes now again. And I liken it to a Bach fugue, which you have a now, you have a theme, and then you have then it's repeated, and then it changes, and it seems continuous, and it's made continuous. So I say, I think this is right, but I'm not sure. I say that the present, that our life is really not a continuous stream of that overlapping nows, and that each now, that therefore, because a now is finite, our lives are saltatory. They're not. I think there's something to that, but it's well, if I put an idea in your head, think about it. If you don't like to think about it, don't think about it.
And I think that's really that's what you've done. I mean, we've had interesting conversations along the way where it's just been we start talking about something, and I've gone afterwards and gone, okay, that's something to think about.
Yeah, there you go.
That's
success. I'm successful. I'm basically a teacher. I guess I love that part of my teaching.
So the kind of one thing I just want to pick up on, just before we kind of move on a little bit, is then, so one of the chapters is the self.
Oh my, yes.
Yes, and it starts with, now I'm in trouble. The self is at once a philosophical, religious, scientific, and speculative subject. It is the subject of many late-night sophomoric discussions in colleges and college dormitories, if that world still exists. It occupies a very important place in Gerry's world, as it does for everybody. Although I have given the concept of self a great deal of thought, I do not have a clear idea of what it is yet. I'm certain of its existence. So any writing purporting to tell that Gerry's world has required some discussion of the self, Gerry's self in particular. The previous sections should also give you a glimpse of Gerry's self in Gerry's world, and I'm also aware that vast areas of Gerry's world are omitted, mainly because they are highly personal or not of general interest, but moreover, they're none of your business.
Well, we all have a secret life, don't we?
Yeah.
Particularly when we were young and exploring things. Yeah, the self. Well, yeah, the self is I am.
Yeah.
I do. I write. I think I had a poem. One of my poems was I write. I write I. Only in the present. Past. Treasury of loss. Future. forgot what I said in the poem, but future is imagination that never comes, that you can't plan for it. But I think in the book I talk a bit about that, and I say, well, you make plans for the future, and most of our lives are organized and orderly, and we plan to have dinner at the clock. But I say, but lightning could strike. And I think you really don't know what the next moment is going to be. It's a source of insecurity. I think fundamentally, that's a very Buddhist idea.
Yep.
A lot of people have had it since then, but Buddha lived a long time ago, so we'll give him credit. And but that the what I even quote a great Scottish poet. Best laid plans, and I have to say it in English. Best laid plans of vice and gang after glay, and leave us naught but pain and grief and pain for promised joy. And you all know that law. We all know that. But that's true. So here's the farmer, he over plowing, he comes across the mouse, he is passion. That's an amazing poem. Talks to the mouse.
Yeah, and there's a certain gentleman here who's not not that far away from that very poet himself, because Rabbie Burns, Mr. Beck, you're not that far from geography-wise from where Rabbie was. So I think.
Are you related?
Are you related, Jim? Oh, no, there would be a chance.
Oh, okay.
Not related, but he does write. He also does write poetry. So I think. I mean, do you think you'll ever stop learning, Gerry?
Oh no. When I get Alzheimer's, if that were to happen, I probably won't. I probably would have showed signs of it. I do have a terrible memory for name, and my short-term memory is not as good as. I used to have a fabulous memory, long since. But otherwise, my mind still works pretty well. I don't think that's going to happen. Oh, I love to learn them.
Yeah. So, and Deborah's just asking then, so what's next for you then, Gerry?
To have to write the second volume of this and correct some of the things and expand some of the things I said in the first volume. And then I have a few other things to say that I left out.
So Jim had to go, but he did say he was looking forward to the second edition then. So
so am I. I've just started it. I'm not sure how long it's going to take to write, but
but I love the fact that you have that joie de vivre then. You know, that joy of life certainly comes across.
When I wake up, if I can wake up, I do. Sometimes I have a hard time waking up.
So what?
And I love being with people and talking to people, and particularly in a situation like this, where you're all captive. I mean, you can go away if you want, but you're all. And I can talk, and no one's going to contradict. I mean, that never happens in my family. I'll say something, and they'll say, "You don't know what you're talking." So, probably right.
Can I ask then, just I suppose a final question probably for, and then we'll see if anybody's got any questions you would like to ask Gerry, please by all means put them in the chat. But what do you hope then is going to happen with this book? I mean, what would you hope that, you know, where it could go?
Well, of course, I expect to sell millions of copies and become a billionaire, and then I can sponsor politicians. Will do what I want. Other than that, so I hope that I would like the book to be read and be distributed. I would like to think that maybe every now and then some one person read it and say, I got something from this that was wrong. That's about it. I wrote it for myself. I published it, paid for publishing it myself because I'm sure that Random House wouldn't bother with it. And I wouldn't blame them. And I'm not terribly interested in selling it. I would be delighted to give it to somebody who is interested. I think that it did something for me because it allowed me to, I think this is significant, having an idea and trying to write it down forces on me to slow down, to articulate it, to critique it, to analyze it, to complete it. Otherwise, your thoughts go off into space. And writing it down is a discipline that really organizes your thinking. So the writing of it, for me, I think is great importance. Publishing it is a little egotistic.
Well, I'm glad that you did, because if you'd hadn't
Thank you.
decided to publish it, we wouldn't have met and we wouldn't have had such
Right.
fun doing it. So
That's right, absolutely.
now Malcolm said he's got lots of questions. So Malcolm, do you want to unmute yourself? And you can actually ask, and what I will
do that. Can you hear me?
There we
Yes,
go.
I can.
I've got lots of questions. It's a fantastic, interesting life you've had there.
Yes.
Why did you hate internal medicine? Or why did you go away from it? Why did you turn to pathology?
Well, I'll give you the answer. It's more than this, but this will give you the answer. I am there in the middle of the night, say 3 o'clock in the morning. And the nurse said, oh, this is what happens. An intern. Yes, I had those kind of hours. I'm at the nurse's station. There is a window, hallway, and then there's another window into the first room. In that room, dying. Believe it or not, of a disease called dermatomyositis, very interesting, very rare, and he doesn't care. Family doesn't care. Her family, her family was fantastic. It was someone with her 24 hours a day. And at that time, in the middle of the night, he was there with her daughter and her husband. She had a tracheotomy. You know what that is. They had placed it wrong so that she couldn't talk. Up one notch to the lines. Mouth her words. And I'm sitting there. Leaning over her, and she says, I love you. And I broke out into tears, like I'm about to do there. It was so painful to me. And I said, I can't do it.
Wow.
I'm a little surprised that I can't even talk about it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now there are lots of other reasons, but that's the reason.
Wow.
Thank you for sharing that, Gerry.
If I follow that up, you've lived a very productive and clearly a very healthy and successful life, and you've operated on all these corpses. And
No, I'm not. I only did that at the last few years. I was a surgical pathologist.
Ah, I see.
Every specimen that comes out of the operating room goes to the pathologist. On television, it goes to the laboratory, and the laboratory gives them the answer.
Right.
I'm the laboratory.
Right.
That's what I did for most of it. And I ran the lab also. also a
Okay.
lab director.
So what did that teach you about healthy living?
Well, there's some basics, but other than that, not too much.
Not too much.
No, healthy living is, everything you need to know about healthy living. All you have to do is do it. Eat well, get a lot of sleep, get some exercise, breathe clean air, love your family, what have you. That's it. That's what you need. You know all that. I nothing I can tell you.
That's what Malcolm is actually writing. His book is about sort of more. God, I've got your latest title, Malcolm. Could tell us
More from life. Yeah, more from life.
That's it. Yeah, more from life.
More from life. There you go.
Yeah. So the other thing I wanted to ask you about, and I know I don't want to, so,
Well, I'll give you one more.
but yes, when you talked about the time and philosophy, I thought, I've studied philosophy a little bit, but I was interested in your concept of time because you talk about yourself in time. You talk about this now being you and the future being unknown to do with you and the past being your past, I think.
Yes.
Has multiple versions because you could be at a dinner party and be sharing now with 4, 6, 8 other people, and they would all be having different nows, surely.
Yes.
And views of the past. I mean, even though they went through the same experiences, they would have experienced it in different ways, and they'd have different impressions, and it would have affected them in different ways.
Yes.
So,
You're
You
right.
got it. You got it. I must have said it right. You got it.
all right. Okay. Good. Okay.
That's what I meant.
I need to get this book.
Absolutely.
That's why the title of the book it's The World According to Gerry. You have the book of The World According to Malcolm. Absolutely.
Well, no, I haven't got that one yet. No.
That's what you're doing, though. Whether you know it or not, that's exactly what you're doing.
Okay,
and that's
great.
wonderful. That's wonderful.
Thanks,
I
Malcolm.
want to read your book because I'm interested in what you have to say.
Okay, good.
There you are. I'm
I'm on to my second one now, Gerry. Anyway.
Good.
Right on.
Mutual respect. That's great. Thank you so much. That's there we are. See, a little bit of interesting conversation gets sparked from this. So I think we're just about out of time then. I've just said I've really enjoyed it. It's been lovely as always is for me to get a chance to speak to you. It really is. It's been a pleasure to work with you, Gerry, and just get to know you a bit more. And I think that's it. The World According to Gerry. Here we are. And it's just a little book. So it obviously is not all of your world, and there's so much more to come.
Just an outline, that's all.
It's just an outline. I really wish you good health and lots of happiness, and just that keep learning is what you're doing, and just sharing that love of learning with us, which is the joy. So thank you so much for coming along and joining me tonight.
Thank you for having this. This was really very interesting. I really enjoyed it.
Great stuff. So thank you.
I'll talk to you next week.
Yep, we'll have a chat next week. And thank you everybody for coming to join us, and hope we'll see you again soon. So thanks very much then. Bye.
Thank you everybody for being patient. Okay.